So as we've been going through NES Quest, there's one question that keeps popping up. Where's the list? Now I did post a spreadsheet document that listed all of the games, but that wasn't really enough for me for this challenge. So I went ahead and I made my own board of all of the games that I want to collect as part of the NES Quest. Now, there are a few things that I need to clear up with the list. The first is there are more than 100 games on this list. However, not on this board. This board contains the 100 best NES games according to a spreadsheet and a little bit of math and science that I cooked up myself, which I'm going to explain in this video. In addition to that top 100, there are games that are picked either for nostalgia reasons, games that I played as a child that I really enjoyed, especially playing with my cousin and my brother, or they're games that have been recommended either through various different videos online, some of the big top NES YouTubers, things that I've found over the course of my time developing my list. So there are probably closer to 200 games on the list, and not every game that I've collected over here is on the official top 100. At this point, I'm sure you want to know what's behind this sheet. So now it's time to finally unveil the top 100 NES games of all time that I'm searching for in my NES Quest. Without further ado, let's unveil it, shall we? Ta-da! The 100 greatest games of the NES collection and my personal goal for the NES Quest. Now, don't look over here. I know you're looking, you like this G word, the grails, but don't, just hold off on that. Let's not look over there. So this right here is the 100 greatest NES games of all time, according to my scientific formulas. Now, there are a couple of different elements to the NES Quest that we are going to have to talk about in today's video. The first is there are a handful of games here that may or may not come to pass over the course of the NES Quest. The main reason being that they are a little cost prohibitive, especially when it comes to this game and this game. This game's pretty expensive. Everything over here is very, very expensive. These are not games that you just go out and find at a flea market for $10. That being said, if I get this close where some of these are the last ones on the list, I have a couple of strategies for potentially collecting these games. When it comes to the NES Quest, the rest of this list in the base area here, these are all games that I am planning on collecting over the course of the NES Quest. Now, I will include a link that's going to show you an image of this so you can follow along, so you can complete your own NES Quest if you so desire. I think it's overall just a really cool visual expression of the best games on the NES. Now, how did I come to make this list? Well, I used several different sources. Some of them were from well-known lists online, places like Ranker or GameFAQs that have allowed players over the course of time to vote for the very best games of the NES. I also went to some of the go-to people on YouTube for the NES, those being John Riggs, of course, and Pat the NES Punk. They each had various ways of ranking games, whether it was the tier list for John Riggs, or it was actually a book that Pat created that I'm hoping to pick up a physical at some point, maybe during the course of the NES Quest, which had all of the different ratings for each of the games. I did purchase a copy of that and utilize those ratings as part of my rankings. Now, I will say I leaned more towards the experts' opinions than I did the players', main reason being that in general, when voting, especially on nostalgia, people kind of vote with rose-tinted glasses. They vote about things that they knew, trying to push those up, not necessarily lesser-known games that they have no idea whether or not it's good or bad. So on a lot of those public lists, like Ranker, like GameFAQs, you know, some stuff got pushed up there just because it was popular in name or it sold really well, so a lot of people played it, but they might not be the greatest games ever released. If they were ranked highly by John Riggs and Pat the NES Punk, then they ended up getting pushed up the list. Now, there are multiple phases to the NES Quest. One is the phase we're in now, which is identifying the top games and collecting them in real life, going out into the world, finding good copies of the game at or below price charting value, and that is what we've been doing and will continue to do until we complete the series. In addition to that, even though this is the definitive top 100 and you don't need to consult anyone else in the entire annals of the internet to figure this out, I've got it for you right here. I am going to reevaluate it myself once I've played through each of these games. Unlike many channels on YouTube that are just out there to collect the games, to put them on the shelf and have them look pretty, as I'm completing the collection phase, I'm also going to be playing and evaluating the games and adjusting my rank according to where it actually turned out in my formula and if I think that's actually where it should be. So once I complete the whole thing, then I will put out my own definitive list of the top 100. This has pretty much no input from me, with the minor exception, there are some very small games in the margin right here. And the reason why they're so small is either because they were nostalgia ads, or they're games that I'm just not that excited about playing, or there are games like DuckTales 2 where you could argue that the better game is DuckTales 1 and it's a fraction of the cost, so I'm really not excited to pick that up. But hey, we'll see what happens over the course of the series, whether or not I could find a really good deal on it, then I'd consider it. But these grails up here all landed within the top 100, and that really creates a problem, because if I really want to have the 100 greatest NES games, unfortunately, these all show up in it. So Little Samson, Mighty Final Fight are the two most expensive games on the list. Bucky O'Hare is right behind, but Dragon Warrior 4 is very expensive. Gargoyles 2, Metal Storm, very, very expensive games, but they did actually factor into the top 100. So I may end up looking for, let's say, a PAL version of Little Samson that can go for quite a bit less, or an original Famicom version of Little Samson that also goes for quite a bit less. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We'll see what opportunities we have over the course of NES Quest, and then we'll go from there. At the end of the day, this list and the NES Quest overall is about playing the greatest games the NES has to offer and finding them within reason for value. So the grails are the cherry on top. Those are, once we've gotten through the majority of things, do I actually push through to the grail part? Do I actually make that investment? Because it's not a cheap investment. I mean, Little Samson's in the 4 figures. Bucky O'Hare and Final Fight, I think, are both north of 300 bucks or somewhere around there. So very expensive games that are going to be the last things that I'm looking for on this list. Games like Metal Storm, games like Gargoyles 2, Dragon Warrior 4, those are somewhat reasonable, and if I find them at a good price, I will most likely add them, but I'm going to have to figure something out with the grails, and those I'm probably going to leave to last. In any event, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of my NES Quest? What do you think of the top 100 games the NES has to offer? How do you think I should handle the Grail games up here in the top right? I'd really appreciate it if you throw a like and subscribe on there and follow along in my NES Quest, the quest to collect 100 of the greatest NES games at or below price charting value. That's going to do it for today. So as always, this is Pyrus for Pyrus Gaming saying thank you for watching, and until next time, I will see you there.